Hello guys, I'm having an absolute field day today yapping at you. So yes, you're gonna see like 3 different videos filmed exactly this position, exactly this little dress from Outcast, which yes, I will include this dress in a try on at some point. Today's topic for Lillith Lodge Yaps is going to be doxing, because I think this is something that's not really understood by majority of the public. My aim with this video is to grow some understanding between us as sex workers and the general public and clients about the severity of doxing and why it is so important to us, why things like our real names hold so much weight, and why we don't just share that information with you when you ask for it, why we work under an alias. All of that, I want to discuss it in this video. So let's start at the start, right? 95% of workers work under what we call an alias. Lillith Lodge is not my real name. We all know that, okay? There are some workers who will choose to work under their real name. I have seen this a few times. Generally, those who start out as OnlyFans stars and then progress into escorting, because by that point they are so high profile, people already know who they actually are, right? I've definitely seen this happen, or using just only slight variations of the name, and that's totally their right to do so. They can do whatever they want. But for the rest of us that chose to work under an alias, why would we do this? Why don't we just work under our real names? Well, the main thing here is the discrimination that we face, the stigma and the threats to our life that go with being a sex worker, okay? Here in Brisbane, Australia, we are completely decriminalised, which is great. And the media and a lot of the industry push that this is the be all end all, and this is the cure, and this is how we fix everything that happens to us. And while it is amazing and it is a great step in the right direction, and you know, it's everything we've ever asked for, it hasn't actually solved every issue that we have. There are still a lot of issues that we face despite our work being completely legal, okay? We are discriminated against by banks. Even though our work is what it is and it's completely allowed and legal, and we pay taxes, or I pay taxes on my income, a lot of sex workers report that their bank accounts were shut down because the banks seem to feel that we are high risk, or that we're, you know, higher chance of money laundering and stuff like that, okay? So their accounts get shut down with no notice. This is a stigma and a discrimination that we face that the rest of the public generally doesn't. You know, have you ever heard of another industry, another job besides a part of sex work having their bank account shut down for no reason other than what they did for work, even though they are paying taxes and the work is legal? So things like this are a big one. Stuff like that. Imagine not getting approved for a home loan because you tell them you're a sex worker, even though you can prove your income and you've paid taxes on your income and it's a completely legitimate business. What about things like needing to return to a normal job, okay? What about if in 3 or 5 years' time you no longer want to do this work, it's not for you anymore, you're not enjoying it anymore, you want to change in career path, maybe something happens to you, something quite traumatic that you can't bounce back from, and you decide, okay, I want to go back to driving a forklift. But all of this stuff under my real name is out there on the internet, okay? That would be a great reason for why we wouldn't want to use our real names, because it gives us a layer of separating ourselves from that character that we created online and that, you know, persona that we had and all of that content that we produce. Because we all know how simple it is to type somebody's name in Google and find everything. Type in Lillith Lodge into Google, you'll see all my TikToks and my YouTube videos and my ads and stuff like that, okay? Imagine if Lillith Lodge was my real name and all it took was my future employer typing Lillith Lodge into Google and all of that came up. Of course, they're not going to give me a job, okay? And this is a big part of stigma. This is a thing that we are trying to fight. It shouldn't be like that. There is no other industry where that happens, you know, that you were a cook, you're a chef, okay? You're a chef and now you want to be a cleaner, and they're not going to hire you for that cleaning job because they can find videos you made of you being a cook and posting about it on YouTube, okay? It doesn't happen in any other part of society, but it happens to us. And this is a way that we protect ourselves from that. It also, for quite a long time, kept workers safe when doing things like international travel, which we're also face massive stigma and discrimination when we're trying to get into other countries, even if it is not for work. That topic of conversation, the travel and being able to visit other countries after being a sex worker, I am going to make a completely separate video on that, but I do want to briefly touch on that here, that is part of it as well. And now the biggest reason why we go by an alias is for things like stalking. If you've been following me on TikTok and on here, you would have seen that this is something that I had first-hand experience with. And you can go and do a bit of a dive and find that content. If you just type it in, it will come up. It's still on my profile. These people exist, okay? These people who are obsessed with you, who dislike what you do for work, a variety of reasons. These stalkers are so much more dangerous if they have your real name. This is why we work under an alias. Keeps us safe, means they're not able to find things like our family, our personal life friends, past employers, maybe where we live. I mean, not everyone is like me who lives and works from the same place. Some of these girls have different places that they reside and a separate place that is just their in-call. Some of the girls only work from hotels. Some of the girls are married and have kids at home, and their clients don't know any of that information. They don't want them finding their children. Having somebody's legal name means you are able to find pretty much anything about them if you know how to look for it, okay? Find where they went to school. You can find pretty much anything. And not everyone is, and not everyone would even care to. But unfortunately, that information in the wrong hands only makes us more unsafe. And as we all know, sex workers are the easiest target for things like serial killers, okay? We are the easiest victim. Why? Because less people care when we go missing. All it takes is a news outlet saying she was a sex worker. Immediately the comments are, oh, well, she was asking for it. She deserved it. Why was she doing this work then? You know what I mean? You don't see comments like that on an average civilian dying or going missing. Because we don't receive the same protections that the average civilian person does, we have to be smart and shifty in what we are doing in order to keep ourselves safe. This alias being one of those things, and probably the most important. That leads me to, what is doxing? Doxing is somebody sharing that person's legal name or information. Doxing can also be things like their real phone number, their address, anything like that, okay? Their personal information is doxing. It's kind of like what happens when, let's say, a TikToker like Alphaba, let's say, because I always see these angry videos about Alphaba. Alphaba going live on TikTok and somebody posting the address that she's at in the comments that she's renting, okay? That's doxing. Posting somebody's phone number, okay? That's doxing if that's not publicly accessible information. And in the case of somebody being a sex worker like myself, posting my legal name would be considered doxing, because all it takes is that information falling into the wrong hands and my life could be at risk with you providing that information. It is not public knowledge. It is something that I have withheld. So, you know, I have people who have known me throughout my life, my personal life, find my content, particularly on TikTok, reach out and be like, oh my God, how have you been, blah, blah, blah. They know my real information. They do, because they've known me since I was a kid. And it's perfectly fine that they know that information. There's nothing I can do about it. Of course, there's people who know you and know who you are, but I don't know if all of them understand the legal ramifications and also the safety issues surrounding doxing, okay? If one of them was to go and post my legal name, say online, that would be doxing. Doxing is not legal, okay? Doxing is illegal as of August 1st, I believe. And you can be charged for doing something like this. And I can only imagine how severe those charges would be if, let's say, for example, somebody with sinister intention was to use that information to then harm myself, my family, etc., right? That person who had done the doxing that led to somebody's death would be facing, I guess, more serious legal investigations and ramifications for having provided that information to, say, a stalker, all right? Also, the blood on your hands of having been involved in the death of somebody else. And you may watch this and you may think that's so dramatic. Who's gonna die because they know your legal name? This stuff happens all the time. Look at how many deaths we've had in the community. Look at the things that I've been through with stalking case, okay? This is a real thing. And if you doxing me or any other sex worker leads to an upturn or severity of a stalking case or a death or an assault, that blood is on your hands, okay? And you've broken the law. If we lived in a society where things were perfect and the decriminalization did really fix everything, okay? And there were no police issues, being dismissed for everything, nobody caring when we went missing, us being seen at the same level as every other civilian, and our job being seen as exactly the same as a cleaner or a Macca's worker, okay? We wouldn't need the layer of protection of our alias so much. But unfortunately, because we still face so much stigma in society, we need the alias. The alias keeps us safe, okay? If the police were out there doing their jobs, actually keeping us safe, actually listening to us, if the law had things in place that kept us more safe, we wouldn't need the layer of protection of this name thing, but we do. That is the reality of our world. And I hope that one day that changes. I hope that there are continual shifts in the right direction for sex workers and our safety and the way we are seen in society. But unfortunately, this is the way that it is right now. Another thing I want to make mention of before I end this video is, let's say you see a girl regularly and somehow, whether she gave you that information or you worked it out for yourself or found something around her apartment that had her real name on it, and you share that information with other sex workers, that's also doxing. I have had so many clients that I have seen share other workers' legal names with me, okay? And I have no sinister intention with that information. Most of them I've forgotten, okay? Most of them I've forgotten, some of them I have remembered. I will never do anything with that information, but that's because that's not my nature. I would never bring legal names into things. That's not me. But that information in the wrong hands, even another sex worker, could be detrimental to that worker's safety and health, okay? All it takes is her saying that to the wrong person, another client, whatever the case is. Now that you've given her that information, you don't know what she's going to do with it. She could jump online and post something about it, okay? She could get in a fight with that girl after a collab and she could post her full name. She could mention it to she might have a client that she thinks is lovely, okay? He's always been good for her. She mentions it in conversation, or her name's actually Veronica, okay? And he might store that piece of information and he starts seeing that provider, okay? Now he knows her real name is Veronica. He may go cuckoo. He might start stalking her. Now he has her legal name. You don't know the flow and effect of you providing that piece of information. And doxing does apply with giving that information to other sex workers. Sharing things like where somebody lives is doxing. It doesn't even have to be the real name. So please be mindful of that when you're a client seeing providers, because not only are you putting that person's safety at risk, but it also sets a terrible first impression as a provider, having a client walk in the door and yap personal, private information about another provider to you. Information that is not public knowledge. Completely different story if she does YouTube and she shared something in a YouTube. Perfectly fine. But you telling me where somebody lives or how many family members they have when they don't discuss their family on social media, or their real name, is not okay. It's not okay at all. And becoming obsessed with and pushing me to give you my real name is insane. You know the amount of people who've seen me for the first time ever and have asked me, what is your legal name? Just tell me, I'm special. Tell me what your real name is. Why the fuck would I do that? Why would I? On what planet? It makes you look icky. It makes you look yuck. Why do you want to know that? It's creepy. It's stalkerish. It's bizarre. Can you see why it would be creepy to need to know who my parents are or where they live? You know, it's creepy. It's really creepy. Anyway, I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into doxing and the complexities of it, and I hope you have enjoyed my yap. I am currently running out of breath and voice because it's the third video I filmed all back to back. So anyway, I hope we are on the same page. I hope you can understand if you're somebody who knows a sex worker in their personal life and maybe didn't understand this and the complexities of things. I hope that this has enlightened you and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, that's why I shouldn't share that information. And I hope if you're a client who's ever doxed another sex worker to another sex worker, that you realize how fucked up that is and how bad that makes you look, okay? Anyway, that is that. I hope you've enjoyed today's yap.